So now we're going to talk about formulas and equations and mathematical models. So mathematical models are when we're trying to model events in the world by creating, a formula for it, okay? So there's different types of models. We're going to be looking at one here in a minute. Sometimes they're going to give them to us. Usually they're going to give them to us. Later on, they might ask us to find a model, a linear model or something like that. But probably we're not going to do too much finding models on our own. Formulas, we have all kinds of formulas out there. There's formulas for like the area of a rectangle is length times width. They're usually an equation. Sometimes they're not, but usually they're equations. And there's usually more than one variable, okay? Equations, they're going to have an equal sign. So equations are statements. So when we're saying, something equals something, x equals 5 or something like that, or a equals b plus 2, that would be another equation. Now you might say, well, isn't that a formula? You've got two variables in there. You could argue with that, how you're going to treat that, but we do have other statements such as greater than and less than statements that are not equations, okay? So equations have equal signs. And we talked a little bit about mathematical models. Okay, so here comes an example. Okay, that's okay. We'll just work with it. So it says the bar graph shows the average cost of tuition and fees for public four-year colleges adjusted for inflation. And then they give us a formula. Now when they give us a formula, you can see there's a t and you can see there's an x and there's some numbers in there. They have to tell you what the variables represent. So it says it models, so this is the model that they have, or a formula, an equation, it's got an equal sign, models the average cost of tuition and fees. So T is tuition and fees. And it's for public U.S. colleges for the school year ending X years after 2000. So we're in 2022 right now. So that means X would be 22 because it's 22 years after 2000. Okay? So we'll do that in a minute, I'm sure. Okay. And then they give us this table, this picture here. This is in your textbook, so you can find it. And so it says in 2000, tuition was like $3,349. And then in 2020, $10,440. Okay, so it's gone up a bit. Okay. Now, we have to be really careful with how the questions come. It says use the formula. See how it says formula? That means we want that T formula. So I should have allowed a little more room. I'll write it over here. T equals, it was negative, I think, x squared, but let me look. Let's scroll. Yeah, negative x squared plus 361 x plus 3,193. I wish I would have written it up in that blank spot there. Okay. And it says, find the average cost of tuition and fees at public U.S. colleges for the school year ending 2020. Now you might be saying, well, wait a minute, I already know what the answer is because it's on the chart. That's not what they're talking about. They want you to use the formula to do this calculation. So to find x is going to equal 2020 minus 2000. Remember, because it has to be the number of years after 2000. So x is 20. Okay, so then we're going to put that in. T equals negative 20 squared. Now, if you're going to use parentheses, that 20 is in parentheses. It wasn't a negative 20 that's being squared. It's 20 that's being squared. That makes a big difference. Plus 361 times 20 plus 3,193. Now I am not going to do this by hand. I'm going to get a calculator. I am going to do a little bit by hand. So I found my phone. A scientific calculator will help you. So, oops, I didn't clear. It's going to be negative 400 here because 20 times 20 is going to be 400. You could just do that on your own. Okay. So I'm going to put in negative 400. You can hear my calculator here. Plus 361 times 20. Your calculators know the order of operations generally. Plus 3,193. And yeah, I think I've got everything in my calculator okay. So I'm getting 10,000. My T is 10,013. So the formula says that's the cost of tuition. But the chart says this is the cost of tuition in 2020. So there's a discrepancy here, right? Our formula says one thing and the actual answer was something else. Formulas only estimate, okay? They're not going to give you necessarily the exact cost. So it says, by how much does the formula underestimate or overestimate? So is this less than what the actual data was, or is it more? Well, it's less, right? So this is an underestimate. So it underestimates, and how much? Well, we have to figure out the difference then. What's 10,440 minus 10,013? And that 10,440 is coming from the table here. That's the actual cost, okay? So we're saying the formula was a way to try to get, approximately what it is. And then turns out that our formula estimates a little on the low side. Oh, let's get an eraser here. This is already a long video. So it looks like it's underestimating by $427. So underestimates by $427. Okay. Now maybe in another year it might be different, might be more accurate. Okay.